Introduce.
Hey, what's up, Weekend Warriors? You may have noticed that this is Saturday evening and we're doing a stream. Well, we've pushed it forward a little bit. I'm El Chizza Reviews. Normally I would be hosting, but tonight you are being hosted by our good friend Ace Red.
Hello, guys, and tonight we are talking about shonen anime. Things like mecha, fighting, game anime. Those will include stuff like Gundam, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Dragon Ball Z, you name it, we've got it. Would you like to start off, El Chizzo?
Yes, I think first off what I would like to do, I think what we should go over first is just some general rules about shonen anime, if you don't mind. Firstly, I would like to go over the three most common genres of shonen anime. Now, when I say genres, you're probably thinking, well, what do you mean? Well, you've got your standard shonen anime where everyone just has superpowers, but outside of that, you've got mecha anime, game anime like Yu-Gi-Oh! And Beyblade, and martial arts anime.
Mm-hmm.
Now, everyone who's familiar with Dragon Ball Z knows its original show, Dragon Ball. They know what a classic martial arts shonen plays out like. With mecha, well, there's shows like Guy King,
Go Lion,
or Voltron here in the West, Tetsujin,
Transformers.
Transformers is actually a pretty good example of a shonen anime. Although it becomes more of a real robot thing in the comics.
Mm-hmm.
But there are plenty of shows which really play up the super robot. Which, by the way, if it's a super robot show, it's kind of treading on the shonen ground there.
All right.
Real types are more seinen.
So then, super robot has to be when it's multiple robots combined together.
No. A super robot is just a very minimal explanation as to how the machine actually works, and it's more or less powered by fighting spirit.
So, like Zyuranger?
Like Gurren Lagann, like Gao Gaigar, like Tetsujin. I mean, technically they have other power sources, but, it's like, I believe in my armor, I believe in my suit, I believe in my mech.
Oh, okay. That makes a lot of sense.
For example, for those of you who don't watch anime, Megas XLR is a super robot. They talk about upgrades they've made to it, but they don't really go into how the robot actually works. For God's sake, it has a car for a head.
Now, I want to ask you, what would you say is required to have an anime categorized as shonen? Like, what are the main requirements?
Very simple goal. A plot that's more or less straightforward. One or two interesting twists. More or less, the main character is usually a young boy, because the shonen anime is meant to appeal to a young audience.
Right. So, would you say Dragon Ball Z is meant for a young audience in Japan?
Very much so.
Okay.
Although there are plenty of adult fans of it now, too.
Most of the adult fans are in the U.S., though. But I think that's just the culture.
There's plenty of adult fans over in Japan.
Well, of course, that's because they've grown up with it. But over here,
but think about how many people grew up with it in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
They're all DBZ fans. Every one of them recognizes it. It's like Mickey fucking Mouse.
Yeah. Well, like what I mean is, over there in Japan, if you've seen the uncensored version of Dragon Ball Z, you know what I mean. To our standards, that wouldn't be a kid show, but to their standards, pretty much a kid show.
I guess you're right. I guess you're right.
Now, before we go into each category, I'd like to start with game shonen.
Oh yes, actually, that's my favorite type of shonen anime.
Yes.
Well, can I start off with one that's a little less complex?
Yes, yes, you can.
Okay, so let's start off with Beyblade.
Yes. Hold on a second. I got something you guys need to see, just because. Oh, I can't find them right now, but I do have Beyblades. Were you playing the riff to Beyblade theme?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was.
Yeah. Let's go into dive into Beyblade now.
Okay, so now this one actually is a very old game. Kids in Japan have been battling with tops that were launched with a string for thousands of years. It goes all the way back to the Edo period. Kids are just going to find a way to compete. And Beyblade was the natural evolution of that. They decided, okay, well, here in the modern day and age, customization is everything, so we'll create a top that is modular with different parts that affect how it spins. And they thought, well, we need a way to market this. This is where game anime come in, because they're always marketing an existing game.
Yes.
So with Beyblade, they thought, well, they're toys, but they encourage creative thinking in kids. That's our angle. But how do we market it to young boys who are going to grow up to be, who are going to, think, oh, it's just a kid's thing? Because let's face it, boys are the first ones to try to grow out of something.
Mm-hmm.
You did it, I did it, we all did it.
Yes.
And then we grew into adults. We're like, I want to be a little kid again, damn it.
I have a personal story with Beyblades, if you don't mind me sharing, actually.
Oh, real quick, go ahead.
All right. This was back in the second grade. After second grade, I'd always go to the daycare in our area, because that's where we hung out after work, or that's where we went to as kids after school, while waiting for our parents to come pick us up. We would always have our own like amateur Beyblade tournaments over there. We'd bring our Beyblades with us. We would get building blocks to stack them around to make an arena, and then we would just launch them in. And I had a I can't remember the name of it, but it was a small purple one, and it had just 2 ticks at the end of it each side, or four ticks on it, one on each side, and that was the blade.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember, because that sounds familiar.
It was always a hit or miss for me, though. Like, I eventually.
Do you remember the picture on the bit?
No. This is back in 2002. But anyways, we would always, back when it was like the huge thing, there was at least 10 of us who had our own blades with us, who come in, and we would just compete it out full out for the whole time.
It was much like that in my school. We were obsessed with all the game anime.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh man, my rig back in the day was a Kid Dragoon. It was one of the wind-up ones with the drive core.
Was it? Are you talking about the one the cheater blade, where you put the you put the launcher into the blade itself?
No. I'm talking like it was that big. It was a small class thing. What it had was a drive core, which was something they introduced later. And when you built the blade, it came with like a little winding key, which was also on the sprue for the parts. And you would just stick that on the tip and wind it up. And what it would do is, when you started to spin down, a weight in it would engage to make it spin faster again.
I think I know what you're talking about. Now, do you remember the blades that were like they were like motor powered, and what you do is
I had one of those as well. It was the Drasil one. No, the Dronzer one. I
had that one too, I believe. Now, do you remember did you ever think, or did you ever have the immaturity to go to an actual blade with a bunch of your friends and just pull that out?
No, but a friend of mine got the Dragoon one.
Uh-huh.
and that's what we played with. We had very strict rules. It's like, okay, only 2 blades of the same, toy line can compete against each other.
Mm-hmm. Because I was that one person at one point who would always just bring out my motorized Bronzer.
Okay, dude, you and I need to, like, at some point meet up at NecoCon or something and just blade it out, dude. I'll have to get some classic Beyblades, though. I
only
miss
have
my
the burst blades right now.
I remember at one point I had a Pump King, and that was my favorite.
Mm-hmm. If you get the burst blades, try collecting those because they're actually pretty good, surprisingly. That reminds me. We need to talk about the current stance of the show.
Back to the focus of what Beyblade is as an anime, is because we're just using it as an example. It's a marketing strategy to put forward a game, and at the same time, what it does is it explains or teaches the viewers how to play. Yu-Gi-Oh! Failed at that at first, because back in the day, Yu-Gi-Oh! Was a cheap, exploitable mess of a game.
All five pieces of Zodiac cough.
And I think it's swung a little too far in the other direction now. Now it's too secure. You need to have a little wiggle room. I think about the 5Ds era is when it achieved what it was supposed to achieve.
5Ds was actually my favorite era.
I still am mad that turbo duels don't exist.
I know. Cards in order. But could you imagine just how freaking difficult that would be? You're driving a motorbike while focusing on your deck.
Yeah, it's definitely something that would require split-second decision-making. Like, because there's so many ways to score points and so many ways to screw up. I almost would feel more comfortable if one guy raced and there was a sidecar that did the dueling.
Oh, kind of like a one of those dual bikes that has the main bike and the little pit thing on the side. Yeah,
that's the sidecar.
That could work. Then you're gonna need a mic. You're gonna need a mic to be able to hear the person on the other end.
That would probably come integrated with the helmet anyhow.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, back on topic. So that's essentially what game anime are. The main character is always going to have what is considered an all-around setup, whether it be his Beyblade, his deck, or, if for those of you who remember, Beat-em-on. Battle Beat-em-on.
Hold on, I actually have one.
It ain't your time to shine face. A point of honor, so many have faced. Through all the highs and lows, victory or disaster, only the best. Be the champion. Yeah, it was the cool. Like, as a kid, I thought that was the coolest theme song. Oh, that's from the new Crossfire one. Yeah, I've got one myself. But that is the main character's Beat-em-on, and it's an all-rounder type. Now, why an all-rounder type? Because they know kids are going to want the main character's, setup, at least to start. And so they want something that will help kids learn the game so they don't feel like, they're failing at something they should know.
Now, would you like to share a little video game fun fact that involves Beat-em-on? I believe you know what I'm talking about.
I don't, actually.
Bomberman?
Oh, yes. See, now this is weird. And brief little explanation to how Beat-em-on became a thing. There was very briefly an anime called Bomber Beat-em-on, or Beat-a-Bomberman, or something along those lines, where it was about Bomberman shooting bombs or missiles out of his stomach. And they released a toy line for it that utilized this gimmick. It was just a toy line. It wasn't a game. You would just push the marble through his stomach into the jaws of the pin. That's not good for it, which is why they switched to the backloader technique.
Wasn't there a Godzilla included in that toy line also?
Not in that particular toy line, but by the same people. And yes, it is kind of a collector's item, which I hope to get a hold of someday.
Yep.
Anyway, moving on. we'll talk more about our favorite shonen anime later.
Mm.
Next is mecha anime.
Yes.
Now, what mecha anime is for shonen anime is going to be, like I said, something that where it doesn't go into too much detail about how the robot actually works.
Mm-hmm.
More or less, it's going to be powered by something coming from the pilot, although that's not a requirement. And usually, the robot is going to be somewhat conscious. It's going to be like semi-sentient.
Mm-hmm. Well, I can definitely tell you what my favorite is.
Please do. Transformers.
Transformers. Generation 1 specifically, but Transformers nonetheless. Actually, Transformers was my first exposure to mecha anime, being that I grew up on reruns of 80s cartoons and 80s anime.
Same here, but for me, instead of Transformers, it was actually G Gundam.
Ooh. I think, does Macross also count?
Macross? No, that's a real type.
Okay.
Because they go a little bit more into how it works. They describe, the weapons and everything.
I'm actually watching that right now, so I'm still.
It's a good show. I've been watching Macross 7 on and off.
I'm starting from the very beginning, but I'm also watching the American version, Robotech.
Yeah, Robotech's pretty good. If you want that nostalgia factor.
Mm-hmm. All right.
I guess
I'll do Transformers and you'll do Gundam. How about that?
Yep, and we'll talk about what I'll do G Gundam, you do Transformers, and we'll talk about what makes them shonen anime real quick. So, how about you start?
Yes. Transformers was originally started in 19. Do you remember when it was originally made? Like, I know 84 was when the anime was created to market the toys.
So how it actually started, believe it or not, it does come back to toys. See, the Transformers anime came out
in. Now, question first: who created the toy first, Takara or Hasbro?
Neither, actually.
Okay.
You see, Takara came up with the ideas for a lot of them, but for the most part, a lot of Transformer concepts and molds were lifted from Japanese toy companies by Hasbro.
Okay.
The most common ones being Diaclone and Machine Robo, but Jetfire actually came from Macross.
Yep.
I think longtime viewers will know what we're talking about at this point.
Yep. Because Jetfire was literally just a stolen mold of the basic Macross white
Valkyrie.
jet. Valkyrie, yeah. So I was watching because I decided to pick up Robotech after you told me about that, and I'm saying I'm just the whole time I'm thinking through the mindset. There's Jetfires everywhere.
Yeah, actually, they've made references to that in the comic book.
Oh, really?
The G.I. Joe forces have transforming mech suits that preferably turn into planes.
Uh-huh.
Now, they don't look exactly like Valkyries, but they look damn close.
I believe it.
So, now the G.I. Joes have Valkyrie technology in the same universe as Transformers and Ninja Turtles. And the Mask crew and Mask.
Mm-hmm. Which will be a cinematic universe, or which, fun fact, Hasbro is starting a cinematic universe of all that. And anything you've seen previous in a Hasbro movie does not exist.
So they're rebooting the whole thing.
Yes, the whole thing is being rebooted.
God.
The only reason that Bumblebee movie is happening is just to fill in some time while they're working on their cinematic universe. It's like Mask is getting a movie.
Mask Crusaders working overtime, fighting crime. Secret Raiders.
Yep. but we'll set up another stream to talk
specifically
about
for that. Anywho, so shonen anime, so Transformers. Why don't we talk a little bit about what makes it a shonen anime?
All right. Well, for me, I think it's just the fact that it has these key aspects. It attracts the young boy. It pure action. A lot of science fiction.
Mm-hmm.
Though that's not really required, but that is definitely a big bonus. And robots.
And there, in the actual show, very little is.
And they have a gimmick.
And they have a gimmick, also good. And in the show, very little is actually explained about how they work.
Right.
We know that they're powered by a spark, and in some cases they have something called a T-cog, which helps them transform, but we don't really know the basics of how their mechanics work. That's really fleshed out more in the comic.
Mm-hmm.
I would have to agree with you, especially during the Unicron trilogy.
Oh yes, Unicron trilogy. You know how much badly I wanted that figure, that Unicron one just alone.
And here's the thing: it seemed like the Unicron trilogy was, in fact, Takara and Hasbro trying to cram as many shonen super robot gimmicks into their show as possible, combining mini-cons, power-up devices, friggin' humans piloting artificial transformers.
The only reason I never got a Unicron for Christmas that year was because apparently I had a speech problem, and my parents saw I said unicorn.
Oh. Yeah,
So
I
no.
can see. Yeah.
Am I the only one that's happened to?
I'm sure you're not.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, I think Transformers Prime made a joke about that at one point. I kind of stopped watching after Prime.
That is the worst thing that's happened in my childhood with getting toys. The lost opportunity of getting a Unicron because I mispronounced it.
Yeah.
So my parents thought, no, you're not getting a unicorn because that's for girls type thing.
I think that's kind of bull, but anyhow. Yeah. Not to judge your parents, they're your parents. But, so yeah, Transformers I think definitely qualifies. Optimus Prime, especially the Japanese Transformers series. Like Transformers Victory. Now that is a super robot show if I ever saw one. There's a little boy. Little boy is kind of the main character. Star Saber is your typical shonen superhero with a robot through and through, except he is the robot. He combines twice with his own armor to make himself bigger. There's all kinds of gimmicks. And Star Saber's signature weapon is called the Saber Blade, which he shouts the name of as he draws it.
Was this released in the US?
No, it never got released in the US, but is the Japanese Generation 1.
Oh, okay. When did it come
out? Shortly after they finished airing Generation 1 in the US, because then no more episodes were getting ported over to Japan, so they made their own.
That's weird. They made episodes for the US, but they never aired it in their own country.
No. Transformers Victory is all Japanese.
I know, but the first Transformers was also Japanese.
Well, actually, it was both.
The animation was all done at Toei.
Yeah, but so essentially, Takara kind of runs the show in Japan, and they wanted to keep selling toys. They did it before as well with the Brave series, which is another good example. So the Brave series is kind of the sister series to Transformers.
Right.
So they decided, okay, well, we'll make our own Transformers show. And we're going to call it Transformers Victory. And they were
The
deciding.
GoBots.
No. GoBots is weird. Believe it or not, the GoBot toys came out first, but the Transformers show came out first.
Hmm.
Like, the GoBot toys came out before the Transformer toys, but the Transformer show came out before the GoBots show.
Okay.
That's why a lot of people think GoBots is a knockoff, but transforming robots was not a new thing.
True.
Well, I guess we'll go into mine for real quick.
Gundam.
G Gundam. Mobile Fighter G Gundam. This was a step away from the typical real robot theme of Gundam. And it was actually my introduction to Gundam, which I think is why you should start on G Gundam, because if you like action anime, it has plenty of that. If you like Dragon Ball Z, it's great for that. But then you'll be pleasantly surprised and drawn in by the rest of Gundam because of how in-depth it is.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how it works is you've got your main character who's on a revenge quest. That's a pretty typical... he's trying to free his father from prison by entering a martial arts tournament in which they battle with Gundams. Each colony gets its own Gundam. Pretty standard shonen fare so far. It combines the martial arts and the mecha aspect of shonen anime.
It looks interesting.
Don't get into it if you're looking for a real deep plot.
Is that it?
Yes, that is it. What you see now, that actually started a whole shtick here in the West, because the first Gundam the main character uses is called Shining Gundam, but in Japan, the second Gundam he uses is called God Gundam, which got censored here in the West because of an issue with Gundam Wing before it, because there was a version of the Death Scythe Gundam called the Hell version, and parents got upset, and that got pulled from store shelves. So they decided, okay, well, here in the West, we're going to call it Burning Gundam, which in Gundam Build Fighters Try, another shonen anime, technically a game anime, they actually referenced that in the main character's Gunpla, the Build Burning Gundam, whose signature move was the Build Finger, a play off of the Shining and the Burning Finger of the West, or the God Finger in the East. Yes, that is the Death Scythe Gundam Hell version.
Nice. That looks sweet. Now, since we're on Gundam, I'd like to mention the latest movie, Ready Player One, the RX-78-2, is featured in it.
Yes, but it's actually making a pose from Gundam Seed.
Yeah.
Which I don't care for Gundam Seed. But it's cool that they got the license for that. I might watch it to see how the Gundam plays in, but if it's just a bit role and they only threw it in there to draw on the anime fans, I'm going to be pissed.
My thought is we both need to watch it, and then after we both seen it, do a stream dedicated to the movie as our topic for the night.
Or what we could do is just do like an overall review of our opinions.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, but that's that's talk for after the stream.
Yeah.
I suppose we'll move on to the last category, and that's martial arts anime.
Yes. Chala and chala.
Now, Dragon Ball Z is not technically a martial arts anime. That just becomes a superpower anime pretty quickly. But in Dragon Ball, the original show where Goku's a kid, that is a martial arts anime.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's still pretty unrealistic because Goku's still an alien, and there's magic and shit, but it does play off of a lot of the old kung fu movie tropes. We'll talk about tropes in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Another good example of a martial arts anime would actually be a martial arts shonen anime, I should say. Would probably not Baki the Grappler. That's more seinen. Wow, actually, I'm trying to think. What's a good example of a martial arts anime for kids?
Hmm.
Oh, Tai Chi Chasers.
Okay.
Again, not a realistic representation of Tai Chi, but it does focus on some of the aspects of it. But it's also a game anime. I suppose Shaman King technically counts as a martial arts anime because because it not only focuses on ancient Asian culture but also martial arts, swordplay, and whatnot. Like Amidamaru, the main character Yo's partner, talks about how much he needs a sword with a hilt in order to work properly, because that hilt has the proper grip.
Okay.
Uh, what's another good martial arts shonen anime? I used to know some and I can't think of them. I guess, huh?
Inuyasha?
No, not really a martial arts anime, more of an action anime.
Zatch Bell?
No, that's again another power. We're talking martial arts, so like boxing, karate, swordplay. I guess Yu Yu Hakusho with the whole tournament theme.
I'd have to watch Yu Yu Hakusho again. It's been a long time.
Anyway, that's pretty much the three basic types of shonen anime. There's superpower anime, but that's like Dragon Ball Z, and Yu Yu Hakusho does fall in that category as well. Blue Dragon. Pretty much any shonen anime that doesn't fall directly into those three categories is probably a superpower anime.
Mm-hmm.
Like One Piece is a good example.
Yes.
I guess what we'll do now is talk about our favorite tropes of shonen anime.
All
And
right.
I want to start with my personal favorite, the trope known as everything is better with spinning. If you have a good move, it becomes better when it spins. This is a rule.
What about the fight that takes like 30 or like 19 episodes to complete?
Oh, the filler fight?
Yes.
Yeah, that's kind of an infamous one, and that's usually because the source material it's drawing from is dragging its feet.
It's notoriously done in Dragon Ball Z, though.
Yeah, and that has to do more with issues between Akira Toriyama and his editor.
So that explains why that whole Frieza fight in the Frieza saga between Goku and Frieza is mostly dialogue rather than just fighting. Most of it's just verbal combat.
Pretty much. Yeah, that's another thing, the multiple forms trope. Every shonen anime has some version of the multiple forms trope.
Care to explain?
Well, like with Frieza. Or Hunter x Hunter.
I have not seen Hunter x Hunter.
The kid can actually cause his body to mature. There's, well, Transformers. They combine into super modes. In Beyblade, the Beyblades evolve. And because of the modular thing, they kind of already have infinite forms. Yu-Gi-Oh! They've got the level monsters. And you've got Yugi who turns into Yami. The idea of multiple forms also implies that the character is dangerous enough that that their power has to be released in increments, which creates a wow factor.
Okay. My favorite trope would have to be. I'm just thinking through everything we named so far and what we haven't. Probably this isn't even my final form trope.
Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. The multiple
okay.
forms thing.
Or this is what this isn't even my ultimate power count also.
Yeah, that kind of counts as well. There's also the my strength comes from my friends trope.
Oh
That's a
yes.
common one.
What about the if we only work hard enough we will achieve our goal?
That's another one. And see, that's the whole idea is shonen anime, they're supposed to, instill the idea of camaraderie and hard work in the children that view them.
Isn't that what most of Asian culture is built around though?
Yes, working together to achieve a greater goal,
Mm-hmm.
but also believing in yourself. Because that just has to do with the fact that Asia is one of the oldest. Asia has some of the oldest cultures in the world. Um, the oldest civilized cultures,
Mm-hmm.
and because they're some of the oldest civilized cultures, they've got older written histories. They draw upon these, and when you have a very old culture like that, your ancient people tend to embellish some of the stories, so it creates this really fantastical image of your history. And let's be honest, a lot of history isn't actually fantastical. It's bloody and boring.
Mm-hmm.
But because they have such a big history, they've got a lot of stories to draw on that are interesting.
I agree. Now, like, I personally would love to see an anime based off of an ancient Japanese war.
There are some like that. There's Samurai Warriors is one.
Okay. Now, I have a question for you. This is more like just springing an idea. Is you know how Super Sentai is so popular in Japan, right? Super Sentai and Kamen Rider.
Oh yeah, they're like the standard shows that are on
Yeah.
every Saturday.
What is stopping what is stopping Toei, or at least why isn't there a shonen anime of Super Sentai and Kamen Rider yet?
Because that's kind of the thing. It's always been live action to make it a little more real.
Okay.
It's been a tradition. Now you've got shows like Samurai Flamenco
Mhm.
doing the whole anime shtick, and Gotcha Man.
Gotcha, man. Yes.
But Toei, they want to do the live action thing because that's what this show is about.
Mhm.
It's a project that brings a lot of different artists together in a way that sometimes anime can't.
Mm-hmm.
The actors, because it's such an old show and so many people have grown up with it, people's grandparents have grown up with it at this point.
Yeah.
They don't want to mess with it. And now, this is actually a big thing. Tradition is very important in Japan, not
Of course.
because they're afraid of breaking tradition, no, but tradition is so ingrained in their culture that it sort of becomes a reflex.
And that's why Tokusatsu is still filmed in the old school style, right?
Well, it's not old school anymore. They have updated it, but
Yeah.
you'll definitely see notes of what it originally was if you know what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Like
going to
in
be live
Ultraman,
action.
for example,
Exactly.
Ultraman. All the they still use suit actors. They don't use CG monsters at all.
Exactly. And a lot of that is to save cost.
Mm-hmm. I thought it was a traditional thing because honestly,
It is a tradition,
me as a
yes.
fan, I prefer it. I prefer it to be a guy in a suit type thing.
Part of it might be tradition, but the biggest thing in it is when you do CG monsters, you got to hire a whole friggin' team to animate it, and that's a lot more expensive than hiring someone to make a couple of costumes one time.
Mm-hmm. I also think it could also be why fix it when there's nothing to fix.
That's another good example. And there's probably multiple reasons it's still live action. I would prefer it to stay live action.
Same here. I'd love to see a maybe like a side show that isn't canon to the main continuity that was done
Well,
in anime.
believe it or not, there is a Kamen Rider Den-O Chibi anime,
I've
and
seen
a
that.
Kamen Rider
seen it.
SD.
Also, Ultraman, the manga, is getting an anime adaptation that's being released next year, and Gridman is getting one that's coming out at the end of this year.
I hope they hire the same kids who made that animated short, Boys Invent Great Hero.
Is that a Gridman thing?
Yes, and I will have you look this up after the stream.
Sweet. Yeah. I know there's a 2015 Gridman anime I've seen clips of. I don't know if it lasted long, though.
Well, we've got about 15 minutes left. I suppose what we'll do now is just kind of go into open discussion.
Yeah. We don't have any viewers right now, so we'll just talk about whatever.
Well, future reference, you got to tag the hell out of the stream.
I did.
Like, on the parts where
I put, I tagged anime, shonen anime, anime talk.
Yeah, you want to do anime, shonen anime talk, weekend dojo, stream, live stream,
okay,
nerd, etc. It's a lot of YouTubers won't talk about this, but tags are how people find your stuff.
Right. All right. Sounds good.
So I guess what we'll do now is I want to talk about Reviewger real quick. So
cool.
My costume is coming along rather splendidly. I got the shoulder pad in. It still needs some work to fit on the costume.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm going to be doing, it's an old Stormtrooper Bell shoulder pad that I'm going to be wearing on my left shoulder, sticking out like this instead of upright like they do in Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to be using Velcro tape to hold that on.
Okay.
And after that, it's still just a matter of getting the balaclava and the boots. And then I got to make a changer.
I have a question now. For this, this might be an interesting twist. Just because for what I've been doing mostly with my channel has been editing. You think there's a hero I could create that's like that could revolve around a fan edit type gimmick type thing, kind of like what my YouTube does?
Just incorporate it into your other persona, dude.
Okay.
Make it all about just being you.
Okay. Because I've noticed I've tried getting into the toy review thing, but I haven't really gotten much into it, like as I have been doing with video editing.
Well, editing is just something you're used to. I mean, toy reviewing, even with me, you've noticed I've had some difficulty getting some videos up. I'm planning a lot of big changes.
Same here.
So what it is, reviewing is just about finding something you like. It doesn't have to be toys. For you, you could actually review tokusatsu. All you have to do is splice in a little bit of footage, enough so that people understand what you're talking about, cut it down so that it matches up with what you're speaking, remove a lot of unnecessary parts, or rather parts that are unnecessary to the explanation, to leave so that the viewers can enjoy it when they go to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
And just give your honest opinion. You have to be thorough. You have to analyze individual working parts of it, like character development, story arc, costume design, music choice, acting in general, or how it was directed, etc. But at the end of all that, once you compile all that information, it still comes down to what you as a person thought of it. That's why there are dozens of reviewers reviewing the same thing, because it's important to get as many opinions about it out there as possible. Mm-hmm. So that someone who's looking at these reviews going into it can make an educated decision.
Sounds good.
That's why I like reviewing toys. That's why a lot of people like reviewing anime or games.
Right.
Because it's something they like, and they think, and it's important to them, and they want to give their honest, well-considered opinions about it.
Right.
Now,
and I as you can see, you've probably seen already, I have plenty of toys to review that I haven't even covered yet. Yep,
I think all you would have to do at this point is come up with a good review stand. I ordered something for a backdrop
Hmm.
Should be coming in soon.
I have some ideas because I have to work with what I have right now, just because of being tight on money. Because I owe money for college stuff right now, so I'm paying that off purely.
Yeah, well, what you can do is just like if you know anyone who's good with working wood,
Hmm.
uh, just like get some old particle board from an IKEA thing or something and
I
cut
have
it into a.
I have wood downstairs. I can easily just
Is it painted like a flat black or something?
I can paint it.
Sure. Okay, go for that. As long as it's not like really grainy or
It's
splintery
just
like
plywood,
plywood. Plywood, I
basically.
would be careful of
Okay.
because with particle board, it has a consistent texture. Plywood makes it with all those because plywood's patterns are not consistent.
Hmm.
It makes it very difficult to get an idea of scale.
Right. That makes sense. Something I wanted to go into. I thought of it about a second ago. Uh, I lost it. Oh, I'm thinking about using this, or just editing it a little bit, but using this as my mascot instead of the other robot, because the other robot looked a little too bulky and too similar to your mascot. What do you think?
I think if you can really deck it out with paint and make something unique from it, sure.
All right. Yeah, I think I can. I've got the right materials and stuff to do something with it.
Well, I think we've just about gabbed ourselves out now, so I guess this is a good natural stopping point for the stream.
All right. Well, thank you guys. Thank you, Weekend Warriors, for joining us tonight for this Shonen anime talk. Next week, we will have some new things in store for you. An event, and then once we've both seen Ready Player One, we will have a review of that recorded and uploaded for you guys' convenience. Thank you all for watching. Remember to follow all our or follow our Twitter account weekend_dojo. Also, go to El Chizo Reviews channel and check out his toy reviews. I believe you have some more planned, right?
I do. I just have to. I've got a long break from work, so I'm gonna try to work on some of that this week, actually.
All right. And check out my channel, Ace Red's Fan Edits. Right now, I post fan edits and just re-edits of scenes from movies and TV, music videos, and stuff like that. I also occasionally post reviews on there. I'm still trying to get those out and planned.
Yep, and look forward to some new videos on the dojo with me and guitars, and the videos that it'll be general guitar reviews, discussions, and jam sessions, and it'll all be filmed in the quote-unquote studio that I practice in.
Ooh, sweet. Now, I think I'm going to start using the dojo purely for my review posting.
Go for it, dude.
All right. Yeah. Expect some more toy reviews up. I know I started a playlist for where I'd post my Proton and Phil's toy or robotic reviews, but I'm going to be changing that just due to I developed a new persona and kind of dropped the whole Proton thing because it didn't work. So I'm just bear with me as I come up with a new idea, but all my toy reviews will be put into that playlist.
Okie doke.
Yes.
So I guess this is a good place to stop. So
Yep.
Good night, everyone. Have a great weekend. I hope you enjoy us being on Saturday evenings now instead of Sunday evenings, so you don't have to wake up in the morning and so you don't feel bad about staying up late watching us. See you later, Weekend Warriors.
See you later, Weekend Warriors, and stay more phenomenal, everybody.